Okay, we're going to enter data into our calculator and come out and have it plotted and make a nice picture. So the way that you start with is by entering the data. And so you go to stats and then edit. And I have already entered that data. So this is your L1 and your L2. I'm going to use that as my X values for L1 and my Y values for L2. Of course, it has L3, L4, and L5, and there's some more on there. And you could use those as well. If you're going to put in multiple equations on there, you could have that. The way that you have this, if you have one and then you're entering them on there. If you have a whole list, instead of deleting one each individually, you could go all the way up here to see how it's highlighted L3, and then what you do is you hit clear, and they were right here. Now you hit clear and you hit enter, and now everything's gone in that column. So you do not have to delete them individually. The other thing is sometimes the L1 and the L2 disappear. So what you do is you go to stats and then you go down to setup editor and then you click on it and then you hit enter and then it'll say done, and then all your L1s will reappear. L1s, L2s, if they disappear, that's where you go. So 5 setup editor is where you want to go. So we have edited, so we've entered all our data into L1 and L2, and so I'm going to show you where that actually matters. So you're going to do second, and then Y equals, we want to get to the stats plot because everything that's blue is going to affect everything that's blue on there. Everything that's green is going to affect whatever's green on your calculator. And so when we go here, we got 3 different plots, and so here they're all off, and so what I'm going to do is hit enter on one, and so I could turn it on from here and hit the plots 1 on there. And then here are the different versions. So you have whisker box, you got um, the boxes you got there. We want the dots because we're going to plot them in there. And notice how L1 is your X and your L2 is your Y. We could always change it, and the way that you change it is you go scroll down here, and then if you look on here, above 1 is L1, above 2 is L2, and L3. I could do second because it's the L's are blue. I'm going to go ahead and then it changes to L3. I don't have anything in L3, so I am going to my data is in L1. So I am going to go back and change that to L1. So this one's going to be L1, L2, and I could use either boxes to plot the points or pluses or whatever. Because this is the color version, I could choose the color in which I want that. Okay, so now once this is set, I really don't need to go back to second Y equals on here. If it's set the way I want it with L1 and L2, I don't need to turn it on from here. I could go directly to the Y equals. So I'm going to go up here and then I go on there and I hit enter. And I already know my plot ones is L1 and L2 are my X and Y's. So all I need to do is turn it on. Now you have to remember to turn it off when you're not using it, because if you try to plot an equation on here and I do say like X, let's say that I do X plus 5 and I hit enter, it's graphing it there. And I guess it's okay right now, but sometimes, of course, it's not going to work right now because I'm on here. What you're going to do is sometimes it gives you an error, and that means you have to turn on your plots. So turn them off. Always be on the safe side and turn them off unless you need them for regression or for getting a picture like we do in class. Okay, so I am going to clear that one up there. So I am going to clear that. And then delete. Okay, so now I have the plots are on, and so then I am going to graph it because my values are in the X, L1 and L2, they're already there. My plots are on, so I am going to hit graph. And what happens is nothing's there. And a lot of students think it didn't work, but it actually did work. The problem is that you are focusing on a certain area of the graph, and you're not actually looking at where it's supposed to be. So what you want to do is you want to go to your window and you want to adjust it. So you're going to have the windows. Now, the way that you do is you look at the data and you're going to have like a -3 is the smallest X value. So I'm going to put that in there. And then 137. And then I'm going to leave that as 1. And then I'm going to put in for the S values, I'm going to put in 69. delete, and I am going to put in 513 and then a 1 on there. And so this is what it's going to look like. To see what's happening, I could see it here, but you would have to hit the graph button, and that's the picture that you get. So see how it actually did? You just had to change the window. So we just readjusted it so we could get a good window in there. And so now what we're looking at is it really a good window? And the thing is that this, we chose the smallest X value and the biggest X value. Notice how it's borderline. And same thing here, we said it's borderline. And then the other thing is we said the X scale tells us how much of the tick marks there are. Look at how many tick marks there are. That doesn't tell us any information. So we want to go back to the window and readjust. Don't zoom in, don't zoom out. You need to know how to actually do it by adjusting it. And so the -3 and the negative and the positive 137 are on the edge. We need to get a border so we get a better picture. So because the distance between -3 and 137 is 140, that's not a lot. So we're going to change it to just a little bit different, and we're going to do -20. And then this one here is going to be 160. And then we don't want 180 tick marks. So we want them to, so that we could sort of identify where these points are falling. And so I'm going to use that every tick mark is going to be worth 20 units. And then this is 69. I'm going to change it because the difference between 69 and 513, there's a bigger difference. So I'm going to have a bigger cushion. So on this one, we went from -3 to 20. This one here to -20. This one here, we're going to go from 69 and we're going to do a -200. And I'm going to change the 500 to 800. And the Y scale, there's 1,000 tick marks in there. I don't want that. So I'm going to change that to 100. And so we have that. And so now we're going to hit graph. And look at how nice our picture is. And I know that this one here is 100, and then this one's here are 20 units apart, so I could sort of see what's going on. And I have a very, very nice window around it, and it's a very nice picture. And that's what we're looking for. All right, very good. Let's see.